Dear Sangha, today is Sunday, the 19th of February in 2012. We are in the Stillwater Meditation Hall in Upper Hamlet in the winter retreat. Today is the last Dhamma talk of the winter retreat. And at 11 a.m. we will have the ceremony. The ceremony for the ending of the winter retreat is a happy day because it's the completion of the 90 days retreat. As a monastic, we have this benefits of each year. We have 3 months of just staying still and taking refuge in one place and not going anywhere. And this is a tradition that has been established 2,600 years ago. Compared to the time of the Buddha, we have a little bit of improvement in that in the 3 months winter retreats, it's not only the monastics, but also the lay friends. If they have the conditions, they can attend the 3 months retreat. And we know that there are those who might not be able to attend 3 months retreat, but they follow all the Dhamma talks through the internet. And they also attended the sitting meditations before the Dhamma talks. They sit at home and they also organize Dhamma discussion together. It's very wonderful. This is a winter retreat at home. And each year we are able to gather together and live together for 3 months, practicing together. This is a great happiness. We don't know if next year we're able to continue this or not, because our life is impermanent. Back then, the Buddha also had the summer retreat, 3 months each year. But back then we didn't have internet, so the number of people able to attend and listening to the Buddha's Dhamma talks, there were very few people. In the last 20 years of the Buddha, he always did the summer retreat in Saleh, in the Anantaspin, in the Jada Grove. And at the end of the summer retreat, he would stay an extra month because there are monks and nuns who practice from other meditation centers far away, and they want to come visit the Buddha because they did not know where the Buddha was, because he didn't have email or phone calls or any sort of communications devices, so they don't know where the Buddha was. But in the last 20 years, they know that in every summer retreats, the Buddha would be in the Anathapindika's centers. And after that, he would not leave right away, but he would stay an extra month. So anyone who wants to visit the Buddha, they can come and visit him. So after the end of the ceremony, the Buddha stays there while many monastics would leave. And many other monastics will also come to visit and to hang out with the Buddha. So the Buddha stays there each year for 4 months, not 3 months only. If we have favorable conditions, then we will also have another winter retreat next year, and us, we will gather again just like this year. And that's a great happiness that we're able to have winter retreats and we're not going anywhere. Whether people invite us to go to give Dhamma talks or have a tour, and we have the reason to say no, it's wonderful. So we're very grateful that the Buddha has established these customs of having the winter retreat. The other day, we have a few nuns who came to work up here, and they saw the brothers who were playing volleyball in brotherhoods, and that was very fun. Not only that, we have the fun while we're playing sport together. Playing sport together is another one way of building sangha together. It's not to compete or win, but it's to build sanghahood. But outside in lay life, they compete in sport, but it's for win or loss. So it's not as much fun. There was a game back in Greece, and during this game, people got mad and they fought, and there were 74 people died, and 100,000 and 1,000 people got injured. So it's not very fun to play sport like this. It was so full of competitions and hatred. But here, the brothers, they play together, and it was a lot of fun. It's not just fun while we're playing sport, but also when we have sitting meditation together, we have a lot of joy, because brother and sister come together to sit in the meditation hall, and it's a beautiful thing. And we see that we are present here for each other. And when we come to the Dharma talks, it's the same. It's very fun. We come to hear the teachings of the Buddha, to hear Thay transmitting the teachings of the Buddha. And we gather together and we hear the bells and we do walking meditations. It's also very joyful. So this practice brings us joy in every moment of the practice. But if we feel that when we go to sitting meditations or walking meditation, or when we have silent meal meditations or Dhamma discussions, and we feel tired and not have happiness, then that means we don't see the values of our practice, because the practice always brings us happiness and joy. For example, when we do walking meditation, each step can bring us happiness and joy and relaxations. And if our steps don't have these qualities, then that step is not a practice. And in some of us, we're able to walk like this. Each step is a miracle. Each step is joy and happiness, a letting go. And each step is a celebration of life. So we should be able to do this. If we just sit and we feel suffering, or walking meditation, we feel being forced and pressured, and that's a waste. That's not a success. This is not something that we dream or fantasize about. This is something that we do every day. And while we're practicing like this, we're able to build our sanghahood in a way that it can nourish us. So when we come to the Sangha Plum Village, it's not that you are forced in exile, but you're able to come to a mountain full of treasures. And if you have this bag, then you can put the treasure and you put full of into your bags. Where do you pick them up? It's everywhere. Everywhere we have treasures. So here's the same. Each step is smile. Each breath is happiness. And when we go to that mountain, this is to play, to have happiness. It's not to suffer. So when we come to Plum Village, you should try to benefit from that. Every moment you live in the Sangha at Plum Village It is a moment of happiness. Each step is breath. We turn each step and each breath into a gem that not just to put into your bag, but to put inside your heart. Because from your dorms, walking to the meditation hall, it takes over 100 steps. And each step like that can be a jewel. Walk in a way that you feel happiness and enjoy each step. Then that is a practice. That's called kungfu. The word kungfu, Westerners often misunderstand it. They think it's just martial art. But it's not that. Kung Fu means the daily practice. Practice twice a day together. That's called nhị thời Kung Fu. So when we go to pharmacy school, we have to do Kung Fu, or medical school, we have Kung Fu, or electrical engineering, we have to have Kung Fu so we can be successful. The same as becoming monastics, we have to go to the lab or to do these exercises, then that's Kung Fu. But we don't have to do Kung Fu in that way, because in the Buddha's teachings, it's very wonderful that when we apply the practice in our daily life, we have happiness right away and we can lessen our suffering. Each step, each smile, each breath, each time that we sit in meditations or listen to Dhamma talk, we can have happiness. And if we don't have happiness yet while we sit or walking meditations, or we don't have happiness while we listen to the Dhamma talk, because we have not yet known how to sit, how to listen to a Dhamma talk, how to do walking meditation. We don't know yet what Kung Fu is, because all these Kung Fu periods will nourish us very much. In Vietnam back then, there was a monastic named Thay Chân Không. It's not our sister Chân Không. So brother Chân Không, he was from Vinītaruci school, and he practiced in a mountain called Từ Sơn, the mountain of loving kindness. And there was one time his student asked him, what does it mean to practice? And he answered by two phrases very beautifully. To arrive in the cave of the gods, and you change your skeletons. Until you change your skeletons, then you will go home. That means that when you arrive to the cave of the gods, where they live, the gods are the immortals, the people who don't die, the immortals. And when you are able to arrive at the cave of the immortals, then we have to learn how to learn to be a god, so we can become immortals like them. Because the immortals have methods of practice that they generate these medicines, the healing medicines that they practice. They use that so that they slowly change themselves. It's called Hoang Kok. It's meant to change the skeletons. Skeletons of the mortals, then of course we'll have to die. But the immortal, the goddess, the gods, so they're not the mortals. So once you're able to change your skeletons, then you will go home. So you're determined to not go home. Even if the brother and sister ask us to leave, we still stay. Because but it was so fully committed to the practice. How can anyone who asks us to leave? It's only when we do not treasure the practice, then they will not need you. But if you come with your full heart to practice, then they would love to have you to stay longer. So why do you stay? It's so that you can put in your kungfu, to put in your training, so you can change your skeletons from a mortal to an immortal. And the master Chân Không, he answered with those two phrases. Once you're able to enter the cave of the mortals, it's something that's difficult. To be able to come here, you need to have many, many blessings in order to come here. So that'd be foolish to leave this place. You have to try your hardest to stay and to change, to practice, and so that you can change your skeletons from immortals into the skeletons of the immortal. Linh đang đổi cốt mới ra về. Zen Master Chân Không lived in the in the 11th century, and he passed away in 1100 years. It's the beginning of the 12th century. Before that, he lived in the temple Từ Sơn, mountains of loving kindness. But in Plum Village, we think a little bit differently. That sentence that says, to come to that deep cave of the immortals, only until we change the skeletons, and then we will go home. But here we stay forever. Once we change the skeleton, we still hang out, stay with the Sangha, so you can help organize and help others. So a cave of immortal, why should I leave? I should just stay. Is it true? So our responsibilities is, our happiness is to be able to live together for 3 months, or 3 years, or 5 years, or 10 years, or your whole life, and to practice. And each day of the practice, you can generate happiness and joy. And of course, inside us we have these pains and sufferings. But when we're able to generate joy, and those pain and suffering will slowly get transformed and get melt away. So there are 2 ways of healing your pain and suffering. The usual way in the lay life is to pull up that pain, to apply therapy, to treat it. And it might be in that depth of your psyche, and it's quietly control you. And we think, we say something, we do something in that direction. So that's why the methods of therapy is to stick our hand in deeply and pull it up by the neck, and look at its face and say that you are my pain and suffering. I have to pull you out of myself. I have to vomit you up so that it can be healthy again. And that way of practice, that way of healing in the lay life is like that. That our pain and suffering is our enemy. That is a bottle full of poisons that we have to hold it and vomit out to get better. It's almost like we have some kind of ulcer, and we have to use the scissor to cut it off and throw it out. So that's the idea of treating. Is like that. Our lay life is a kind of surgery. But there's a different way of practicing that's more calming. We just let it sleep down there and we sing lullaby so it goes to sleep. Because sometimes it manifests, it shows up. Sometimes it manifests and it can be full all over us. But when it doesn't manifest, then it sleeps. That they are seeds of consciousness. It's something that's there, but we don't see it. It's in that dormant state, in its potential state. So why do we have to touch it and wake it up? We can ask it to sleep, and during that time we can pay attention to the miracles of life. The miracles of life are present, are here in the present moment. And the miracles, they are there in our body. They are there in our minds. They are there in our situations. So this practice is to pay attention to the positive things. What's fresh, what brings well-being. The elements that can bring healing and nourishment. So keep doing this and don't touch that pain and suffering. Almost like you're not touching, not treating it, but you're actually treating it. So if one thing is strong on this side, then the other side will get weak. You don't need to pull it up and to cut it, to treat it, but slowly it will heal. Your pain, suffering, your yearnings, your missing, they will slowly get treated. So back then I had gone through this process before. From the time when I was exiled because of my calling for peace. So I miss my home a lot. I miss my temple, my sangha, all the people I love, all my work, all my happinesses are over there. But over here, there's nothing familiar. Plants are different, birds are different, foods are different, the language is different. Nothing is similar to what's in my home. And that deep yearning because I was far away from my friends, all the loved ones, and it's great. But because I was exiled, so I had to accept that fact. So I started with the methods of getting used to what's here. Practice to play with the French kids or the German kids or the British kids, and practice to play with the priest. Practice to play with the rabbis, or with practice to play with the students, reading their poetries and teaching the dharma, so they can help them find happiness in the present moment. Because I didn't know how long I was exiled for. If I just sit there and ask and hope that hopefully next year I will get I can come home. But the truth is I was exiled for 40 years, and to wait for 40 years is too long. So my practice is to get used to what is here right in the present moment and find joy in the present moment. And slowly I work with the youth and the religious and the peaceful delegations and play with the kids here, and I slowly form a sangha here. In the early years, there were many years I dreamed that I came back to my home. And the most typical dream was I came back to this hill, this very green, very beautiful hill, and I started to climb up that hill with this hope and this joy that once I climb up to the top of the hill, I would be able to meet all the things and the people I love and things I've been expecting and wanting to find. And that dream always repeated. And usually by the middle of the hill, I will wake up and I would never get to the top. So that dream, it repeat many times because that wish to come back to my hometown and find all the people that I love and to be able to live in that that situation, that scenario that was so familiar and so loving back then, that was so strong, and I keep dreaming that I came back to my root temple many times, and each time my teachers would be sitting there and waiting for me. That missing, that yearning was like that. Even though I had become a monastic, but I still miss it so much. But with that truth, slowly those dreams get lessened, and one day there was none, because I finally accepted that this planet is my hometown. Everywhere is my hometown, and I was healed. And that proved to me that to heal is not to pull that pain and suffering to look deeply and contemplate it, or to cut that pain and suffering and throw it out. It doesn't have to be that. It may be that I just sing it a lullaby to sleep, and once it manifests, I can recognize it and smile, and come back to my own practice of dwelling happily in the present moment. So if there's some of you who are experts in psychotherapy, you should think about this. There are two ways of treating. And it doesn't have to be that the first way is the only way, but we can have other ways of treatment. And what is kungfu? Kungfu is the second method. The kungfu is the second method in that we go to sitting meditation so that in each moment you have joy. Because in our life, there are so many people. How many people have a chance to sit still twice a day at least? In this life, how many people are able to have a chance to do walking meditation with the Sangha every day? And is encouraged to, whenever they walk in mindfulness. In each steps, we should touch the Pure Land, and to be encouraged like that. So this is a very ideal scenario. We're not prohibited to do this, but we are encouraged to do this. Sit so you can have happiness, walk or eat so that you have happiness. For example, this morning I ate breakfast with my two attendants, and I saw very clearly that each bite is a legend, and it's so happy, and the food is not a lot or fancy. So it all depends on our way of doing it. Each moment is a celebration of life, because we see the miracle of life, and that is kung fu. But if you feel that you are pressured or forced to go sit or do walking meditations or listen to Dhamma talk, then that's a tragedy. And if we are able to gather 300 of us, 400, and we're able to practice together for 3 months, that is a great happiness. It's because of the Buddha and the tradition and these favorable conditions that we're able to do this. In life, how many people are able to do this? And if you don't treasure this, then that would be such a waste. What if next year you're not able to do it? So you have to try with all your hardest with all these conditions so that next year you can gather together under one roof and practice together, because we create happiness for ourselves and happiness for so many other people. Back then, there was a practitioner. She asked me a question. Back then, that was about 10 years ago or 15 years ago. She asked me like this: "Dear Thay, you are old. You're almost 80. Do you have any dreams that you want to realize before you pass away?" Before you pass away, what you want to see happen so that you will feel satisfied. And that was her question. Thay, what do you think to be the thing you want to realize before you die? So she asked me that. So I answered her. I think and I feel that I don't have any dream. I don't want anything. Somebody said that in the life of a human, we need to have some dream. But when I heard that question, I discovered that I don't have any dream. Or to say in a different way, that what I've been dreaming of is already happening right in the present moment. And that's the truth. When I was a young monastic, I had a dream that I can build a Sangha community of practice where we have brotherhood and sisterhood and we love each other, we work together in that brotherhood and sisterhood, and we generate joy in our practice. And I carry that dream for a long time. So the question, Thay, do you have any dreams that is not realized yet before that you want to see it realized before you pass away? So I see that I don't have any other dream because the dream of building a Sangha is already successful. And that dream is successful or not, whether it continues or not, it depends on our practice. Whenever I see a monk walking with peaceful steps and freedom, so I see that my dream is already becoming true. When I see a couple of brothers sitting and drinking tea together and building brotherhoods and planning ways and to help people, so that is only a dream come true. Each day we able to sit like this or we walk peaceful step like this and able to direct our heart in this direction. So that's already so beautiful. I don't need to find anything else. And I don't need to go seek for it. So that is kungfu. If I am not happy, then that's very foolish. We have the Sangha, we have the practice, and our practice, we don't need to have some belief, and that no one can shake the belief in our practice. It's because we have realized it for ourselves that if every time we walk, we have happiness. Every time we sit, we have happiness. Every time we breathe, we have happiness. And no one can take that faith outside of us, out of us, because that faith comes from our own direct experience. It's not coming from other people who's very good at convincing in their talk. So our belief of faith, it doesn't come from other people, but it comes from ourselves. So those two phrases we need to remember. When we're able to arrive to this deep cave of the immortals, once we're able to change our skeletons, we will go home. But we don't go home, we stay. And we're able to change our skeleton. How are we changing our skeletons? It's through each of our breath, each of our steps. And here we train very carefully on how to practice so that in our steps we have happiness or breathe and we have generate happiness. So it's not that we have to pull up our pain and suffering in order to heal them.